Okay, so we have these key insights that since the COVID-19 pandemic, we have more demand for e-learning, remote learning techniques. And we have looked at the success of social media portals and psychological insights, soap operas, to bring it all together, to combine these latest insights into the best working methods like brain-centered design and speaker-centric learning. So we have also applied the latest neuroscience and neurotechnology applications, and we are harnessing the latest technologies like AI, natural language processing, computer vision, and 3D technologies. So we're trying to implement the most efficient e-learning with a scientific approach. So we're using as much scientific research as possible, as efficiently as possible, and we have created a development pipeline of several IT products to develop. So we have a three-pronged approach: a commercial approach, a philanthropic approach, and a worldwide co-creation approach. So we essentially see this e-commerce trajectory. So first digital transformation, then basic school, university, and infrastructure, enrollment, IT, and identity access management, and so on. And then we use latest natural language processing, AI, computer vision, natural language processing, Internet of Things, and so on, to optimize many e-learning methods. And we have automated assessments and personalized improvement suggestions. And then we get that way to higher level e-learning and edtech, where everything is optimized and harmonized efficiently. So our e-learning business model canvas is like this. So we have key partners, key activities, a value proposition. So with our maximally transformative purpose, to be the most scientifically founded, modern, innovative, and effective e-learning and edtech application, we have customer relationships, we are customer segments, channels, and so on, everything optimized. So one product we have is this: to teach young children 185 common animated and illustrated verbs called Verbs for Kids. They are 3D animated so that young children can really understand what an activity means. So that's some existing profitable business, and it offers a chance to tap into a multi-billion-dollar market, cross subjects, and to teach new teaching skills. Okay, if you can't hear me or anything, then please tell me. So we are having a concept map approach under development, where we try to organize and visualize content for people to see and to integrate it like this. So in this, the software will automatically suggest elements for texts, for collaborative concept map developments, for course materials, learning gaps, and so on. And we're also training a chatbot to be a patient, so to train doctors with that chatbot. So the chatbot claims to be sick, to have different symptoms of different diseases. Then it's the task of the doctors to find the root cause, the disease. So we are working with ChatGPT and its API. We have several levers in educational technology. So we have better learning methods. For example, one focus is visual learning in flow state. We are helping learners to use more senses and more hardware. So do everything in 3 dimensions. And we use a wider range of methods: meditation, mentalist methods, brain-centered design, challenges, and entrepreneurship. And we are developing better assessments and comparability techniques to make learners and the results more comparable. And we are shifting content to better cooperate with AI and robots. And we are leveraging latest platforms, applying latest psychological insights. A key focus that we are applying is flow state, also previously called super learning. So to learn efficiently in flow state, one can learn up to 5 times faster. And we are adapting to the different preferences of the learners: visual preference, auditive, touching preference. And we try to find out how to people best get into flow state, how can we get them to relax or concentrate, which meditation techniques to use, and then apply them to get people into flow state and get people to learn as fast and as efficiently as possible. We try to analyze which principles of brain-centric design work best for them and how to find heightened state of consciousness is a warm-up exercise. So there are several key innovations due to lucid dreaming in such flow state techniques. For example, the benzene ring was invented, the DNA double helix based on such visual techniques, many startup ideas. And for example, Francis Crick and Carrie Banks admitted that they even used LSD for being creative. So we are working on standardized 3D visualizations for knowledge sharing. So this flow state is a state of maximal efficiency, a state of optimal consciousness, a peak state where we both feel our best and perform our best. It's a transformation available to anyone, everywhere, provided that certain initial conditions are met. So it's also called by Leah Hamilton as when you go to that place, there's no time and there's definitely no thought. You are, and it is, and that's why we continuously seek it out. So this is where you can be yourself, where you can be maximally creative. So we use as precondition to maximize flow state, probably the most important soft skills. So it also gives a feeling of selflessness, effortlessness, richness, and timelessness, a peak performance state. And it's highly dependent on personality, on one's preferred sports, music type, and so on. And it's a key success factor in Silicon Valley. Yeah, and it's more important than the insights from many self-help books, because it's not true that you become successful when you work more, get up earlier, sleep less, and add funny daily routines. You get more successful when you maximize your flow state instead. So McKinsey found out that you can be up to 5 times more productive in flow. And with 2 out of 5 days in flow state, you can be 1,000% or 10 times more productive in that week than normal employees. So there are many more benefits. It has been scientifically analyzed, release norepinephrine, dopamine, and endorphins. And this is how it technically works. And I present it here because it allows much faster learning. These neurochemicals help bring information from short to long-term memory, bring better information processor anchors for the new info to better stay in the brain, especially combined with brain-centric design. And the US military found out that the learning rates of snipers and radar operators in flow increased by 470%. So flow state also makes other activities more enjoyable, gives improved performance, better learning and skill development, higher creativity, persistence and achievements in activities, and a high personal growth, great feelings of competences and efficacy, and intrinsic motivation and self-directed learning also increase. McKinsey identified the following peak performance factors, like the IQ that we probably all know, intellectual quotient, but then also the emotional quotient, the meaning quotient, the spiritual quotient, and flow state increases all of them and increases productivity up to 5 times, McKinsey found. So especially when we address all these 5 sources of meaning. And it also gives small unexpected rewards to motivate people. Grayler Partners, a management and venture capital company, they found the following metrics: that it takes 15 minutes to get back into flow when we get interrupted, that we can be up to 5 times more productive in flow, and knowledge workers can spend 30 to 50% of their time in flow, and thus should try to stay in flow, to not be interrupted. So keeping people in the pocket between boredom and anxiety is hindering them to be productive. Better is to keep them in flow state. So it can help to compound the weekly learning rate. And we should optimize for positive versus negative interaction ratio. For success, there should be 5 times more as many positive interactions within a team as negative ones. So to summarize, we in average without training only spend around 5 times of our work in flow state. We can optimize this to around 50 times of our work times. It can lead to around 500 times in productivity increase at peak performance, up to 1,000 times or 10 times more productivity. Google found that after 6 weeks of training in 4 triggers learned a 35 to 80% increase in flow state. And similarly, e-learning can be 100% more efficient in flow state. That means only half of the time required to reskill or to upskill, or half the education time is required. In flow state, this means everybody should earn several hundred thousands of dollars before finishing university at around 25 in the same old-fashioned way. That means people could finish university earlier and earn money beforehand, and thus earn these several $100,000. So we achieve flow state mostly just near the top of the Maslow pyramid, near self-actualization. So we must learn to climb up the Maslow hierarchy. Flow state is also some solution to the automation job loss problem, because we can innovate after the many crises. And not being in flow state is the reason for underperformance of many people and even entire cultures. So to optimize flow state, it is a state between arousal and control. And one can first get into a state of control, then get into flow state from there, or get into the feeling of arousal and then get into flow state from that state. And it's a part of positive psychology, or flow psychology. It has been developed by many people, especially Albert Heim, William James, Walter Bradford Cannon, Abraham Maslow, and Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. It's a science of unbelievable results. It's a combination and adjacent to the following brain states. So typically one recovers, then struggles when one is not in flow state, then releases when one can't get into flow state, then gets into flow state with certain techniques and triggers, and then should recover again to again be productive into flow state. It is a state between boredom and anxiety. So this is the flow channel here in the middle. And it's a state where one has an optimal skills and challenge ratio, where one is not too challenged, so one doesn't get bored, but one also is not too anxious to not achieve the metrics. So 4 forces lead to ecstasis, similar to flow state. We can use technology to achieve it: pharmacology, neurobiology, and psychology. So it's a triangle between learning, creativity, and motivation. And then in the middle is a high-performance triangle. So we can achieve flow state for maximal learning with these techniques. So should eliminate external distractions and also minimize internal distractions. So get rid of all these sources like social media, mute all information, all alerts, put them all into bags and or switch them off. We should tame our monkey mind, and we should deprive ourselves of potential distractions. So should optimize that our minds are always looking for the path of least resistance to ease it to get into flow state. So we have these key learning styles. So so with flow state, we can have endless peak states, always learn more, make a short break, learn more and learn more. And we shouldn't apply these other learning styles where we get into a crash. So the research shows us a detailed flow genome matrix, but that's a little complex for today. Let's quickly go over how to get into flow state. This is when we optimize so the subconsciousness takes over. For example, when we take a shower or when we take a boat trip, Albert Einstein was famous for doing that. This is the memory model, the anatomy of the mind. We have a conscious mind with beta brain waves, and we can use flow state and critical thinking and meditation to get to the subconscious mind with alpha and theta brain waves. And we can then use meditation to get to the unconscious mind of delta brain waves. And when we can use our entire mind with the help of meditation and flow state, we get that way into that state of being able to learn better. So we have short-term actions, which are meditation, hypnotic, and mesmerizing content. We can meet more supporting preconditions to enforce and improve that flow state. We can develop mastery, again, enforcing and improving flow state, and build up class 3 to 1 flow state capabilities. Now, I quickly go to the preconditions for flow state. We need to have a clear set of goals, progress, work on specific tasks, clear and immediate feedback. We need a challenge skills ratio that's good, a healthy attentive state, and we need to eliminate all external distractions. Highly desirable conditions are that we don't pressurize ourselves or force ourselves into flow, that we're relaxed, or that we're in a state of high consequences like downhill skiing, where we get instant feedback of deep embodiment, like also downhill skiing in athletic activities, or that we use our personality and focus, that we simplify ourselves, or that we are in a social situation, like in a bar, and make jokes, or then a creative situation of brainstorming, or in an environmental situation where we have a rich nature that impresses us. So other supporting conditions are that we dampen or eliminate internal distractions, listen to the right kind of music, create a set of mental cues on neurolinguistic triggers, that we, for example, learn 10-finger typing and then can get into flow while typing, that we learn keyboard shortcuts to be more efficient or more in autopilot mode when working. From autopilot mode in working to flow, it's just one small step. We should get enough sleep, and we have different degrees of flow and how they get measured. They're scientifically measured with Stroop tests. That's the test how quickly people react upon different stimuli. Femto MRIs and EEGs, and we use questionnaires. So there are first-class flow state triggers. So we categorize them into individual short-term triggers. That's meditation and hypnosis, intensely focused attention, certain work or sports with the right challenge skills ratios like downhill skiing, snowboarding, and so on. journaling, meaning writing down one's thought, dreaming, triggering thoughts of vacation or focus on work, neuro-linguistic programming, music, like creating improvisational music together, binaural beats, immersive 3D, AR and VR videos, we're working on that, and mesmerizing campfire and sunset videos, mesmerizing multimedia, and that's what we're using in this IoT company to bring people into flow state to then have them learn efficiently. Deep visualizations, lying on one's bed and concentrating the state just before falling asleep is called hypnagogia. That leads to flow state. Then smart drugs can help neurofeedback training and transcranial magnetic stimulation. And as individual long-term flow state triggers, motivation and mastery can help. Then we have group triggers to bring an entire group of people into flow state, which is mesmerizing campfire or sunsets. That's what our ancestors already used, why they had campfires, and mesmerizing multimedia or romantic dancing together, or a couple sitting romantic at a lake, watching the sun go down, a romantic walk in the sunset, ideation techniques, especially around brainstorming, or a technique to always say yes and to see where it leads to. And low usage techniques, LU, are giving wellness massages, motivation and mastery, and group sport specific techniques there. So we can get into a permanent flow state through sleep deficit, but that's a bit difficult to learn. I skip over it. We have a group flow state with these preconditions like mutual respect and acceptance, shared risk, close listening, familiarity, and so on. That we can take preparatory and synchronization exercises to get into a group flow state, like meditative exercises, breathing exercises, comedy and play on work. And then we have these flow state triggers that are second class, especially the group triggers of deep emotional empathy, group events like Burning Man and concerts, walking together without having to pay attention to the path, receiving wellness, certain other techniques, reading a book that sparks imagination, progress towards mastery, high-end productive daydreaming, getting carried away with ideas that we excel at, simple repetitive work or leisure where we have a bore-out syndrome that can lead to flow state, being forced to calm down, a drug-induced altered state, meditation-like phases before falling asleep in certain cardio sports. And then there's a third-class flow state triggers like individual short-term triggers, especially certain computer games that are immersive with the right challenge skills ratio, watching a captivating TV show, feeling immersed, daydreaming, getting carried away, but not directed or having to be productive. So without stress, dancing, watch people dance closely, looking at possible prey or animals to hunt. That's what developed in our ancestors. Getting immersed in the content or other occupations or passions. So in this IT company, we use meditation and mesmerizing multimedia like this to get people into flow state. One motto is to sleep like a baby, but dream like a genius to get people into altered state of consciousness. For example, neuro-linguistic programming. Yeah, for example, putting your hands at the left and right side of the head and lying on bed or sitting and concentrate hard, putting on special headphones and relaxing, for example, with good music like Pink Floyd. One can optimize it with the cortisol awakening response, which only occurs after night sleep, not after naps. It's a special technique. Montessori education also helps. And then there's a knowledge is power program in education. So flow state is applied in education, but also in sports and in the workplace. It's one can apply it to program one's consciousness. It can be used to maximize productivity and to minimize productivity and creativity blockages and to reduce them to zero. So e-learning in flow state. So our target groups are pupils, students, adult learners, upskilling. They can learn up to 100% more efficiently. For example, lying in hammocks or in loungers with 3D, VR or AR or XR headsets. We optimize it together with super learning or suggestopedics, possibly aromatherapy or wellness. And initially, we had people to learn vocabulary, also use flashcards into initial visual content. We amplify it with meditation, and that has certain effects on the brain, that gyrification, brain function improvement, mood improvement, cognition improvement, stress reduction, and focus improvement. There's a special technique called brain-centric design, BCD, which is naturally used when applying entrepreneurial thinking. Like, how do you visually design a product? How do you advertise it to people? How do you sell it to different target groups? How can this be used in a product or service? Which competitive offerings exist? How do they differ? What can be our own competitive edge? Which sales, marketing, and strategy focus can be developed around it? So it's a way to look at things from all perspectives and use all our brains to look at a thing. And then if we look at a thing from all aspects, we also memorize it easily. When we apply BCD, brain-centric design, to something, we can more easily memorize it. For example, the product or service that we want to sell, we then more easily memorize it after we have thought about it from all angles. And also filling out the business model canvas or the SWOT technique can help with that. So this BCD is a type of cognitive rehearsal. It also applies repetitions. And it works with a set of tasks, problems, or challenges to be solved. There are several books, also one called Brain-Centric Design on this. And it's always around 3 questions. What surprises you about what you just heard? What is it that you knew and that you now see in a different light? To think about metacognitive aspects of thinking. And is there something I need help with? And then to start a discussion around a topic. What is more important? What is incorrect? What you like more? Can you accept some of the others' positions? And what if questions? What if we look at it like this, like ABC details? Then there's Anders Ericsson's book called Peak about the deliberative practice. It identifies learning paths and objectives. We need to focus on the skills to learn, with priority 1. And priority 2 is only the knowledge. We should enumerate or create substructures, so-called click questions that make the brain click, meaning clicking insights with a wow effect. What causes, for example, the changing seasons on Earth? It's not the Earth's distance to the sun, but the inclination of Earth that causes the seasons. And we should assess each subskill separately and practice to learn them towards accelerated e-learning, understanding, and mastery. We should put on our own deliberate autotelic motivation and visualize our knowledge and one's future level of expertise, bring flow state into it. And the KPIs, key performance indicators, show that it leads to a slightly biased effect size of 2.5. So 75% right answers versus 74% right answers of students to mostly click questions. So it is a significant improvement. Every profession could be trained so that more than 50% of professionals achieve more than 95% of ideal performance. For example, the radiologists, if they're not given enough feedback, they often don't improve and misjudge after not learning enough. And so with this deliberate practice, radiologists and other learners can be improved up to the factor of 2.5%, 2.5 times more. Then there's called learning styles. So what preferences we have in learning? There's a listening preference, a writing preference, a reading preference, a speaking preferences. And the Howard Gardner learning styles, they're broken down into linguistic learning, logical, mathematical learning, naturalist learning, like for example, going into nature, spatial learning, bodily kinesthetic learning, musical learning, interpersonal learning, and intrapersonal learning. And we as company, we adapt our learning styles to these different learning styles. Then there's the VARC classification of different learning styles. It's auditory learner, kinesthetic learner, and visual learner. So these are learning preferences. So we all can apply these styles somewhat, but we typically have preferences towards one or several styles. There's other learner styles, people that are easily overwhelmed. These are typically uneducated families. Then there are audiobooks and auditive learning, kinesthetics, or learning by writing. So some people learn better when they write down what they need to learn. Learning by experiences or learning with emotions. For example, these people use them role plays. Our priority is to combine flow state and visual learning. So we use mind maps and concept maps in our software, and we use visual learning and representations, and we use creative learning through visual representations. So now I go into the technical details. So I wasn't told how long I should present. I have quite a number of slides. So tell me when the next person is ready to present. I can go on for quite a while. So when I'm not being told, I'm going on to present. But if somebody else is ready with the next presentation, then tell me, I can quickly come to an end. So we use visual knowledge ingestion. So with large language models now and latest AI, we can automatically create mind maps and concept maps like this. So this is a mind map here at the left up, and this is a concept map here at the right bottom side. And we use that to help people learning. So we apply visual knowledge ingestion facilitated by AI and facilitate this visual knowledge learning and create mind maps and create variations of mind maps with the latest AI. And they look like this. And for example, this is about art and design, taste, culture, knowledge, consumer and producer, experiences, or here about gardening, conversations, so on. Then we also use this concept maps, visual concepts like these, which are like in IT, you have UML diagrams, entity relationship models, and so on. And you have concept maps like these to the right side. So use these to help people learn and to color it. For example, planetary concepts here in yellow, physical constraints in orange, trophic levels in blue, and so on. We can visualize complex systems like the endocrine systems here with certain visualizations. So we try to turn textual content into different types of visualizations so that can more easily be learned. So for example, we break this down into the cranial glands and pelvic glands and interior pituitary glands, hypothalamus, posterior pituitary gland, pineal gland, and so on, and show people what to learn. We analyzed this, surveyed text visualization techniques, and then there's really dozens of techniques that one can apply to visualize content and to make it easier to learn, like these. And we try to transform content automatically into these visualization techniques and thus help people to learn visually in flow state. And we do visual competitive intelligence and do research screening of what competitors are doing, what are their marketing strategies, what are corporate strategies, visualize these strategies. For example, like this visualized corporate strategy, the SWOT analysis of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Then they break down, for example, the strengths. What do we do well? What do they do well? Our advantages. What are the competitors' advantages? Which are the opportunities, trends, vulnerabilities for the competitors, our own vulnerabilities, weaknesses, economic conditions, and so on. Which management systems exist, which expertise, which resources, how do they implement operations with which efficiency, which capacity, which processes, and so on. What about the finances, the costs, the systems? We can do an entire visual competitive intelligence, whereas relevant research and tech going, show visual insights, for example, with social media marketing and for social media marketing. We can do visual scenario analysis. We can display goals, can be farsighted and intelligently, or and show trends, threats, or turning points. And we can show big visual situation overviews of virtual war rooms. For example, the 3D space is far more suitable to arrange big amounts of information. We have the ability to zoom in, out, to arrange more information in 3D, custom arrangements of information frames for each user, personal views, and so on. And in heightened state of consciousness, like ideally flow state, we can process far more views and far more information. Information can directly go into our mental sketch pads, and our attentiveness is much higher, and we can learn up to 100% wider and better. For corporations, the analysis of the competition in the corporate market is much easier and better with visualizations in flow state. So we visualize corporate strategies and the possible effects with probabilities of relevant use on the corporation strategies, and how much better that can be shown in virtual reality. So different colors are used, arrows, probabilities used to show the length and width of arrows. So, for example, here we display elements and arrows and width of the arrows. So, so we are collecting, checking, linking, and selling the best 3D visual content as types of libraries, utilities, and we link people and meta marketplaces. So we offer eMOOCs, videos, and so on this field. So we know that high-end content creation is expensive. So we just reference content and combine the best content. And we're building a community to test and submit improvement suggestions and optimize content. We're collecting, checking, and linking everything together. And we do community building online, speak on conferences like this one. And combine the players in the market. We are building an education technology platform as a service with the advantages of high speed, low cost, customized learning, new experience, best in class products, best privacy and value. So we're working with open source tools like Elias, Moodle, and 3D libraries. We're using blended and flipped HTML-based e-learning applications. We exchange learning materials across languages and countries with machine translation to translate it. You're developing virtual assistants, coaches, and trainers. And we have special hardware systems that we work with, for example, the BIRD system, eye cameras, head-up devices, and so on. We work with real-time mapping and conversion of cloud-based 3D or e-learning ecosystems, especially SCORM and MOOC tools, and work with user-submitted audio and video files. So we're building an education technology platform. So this, our motto is thrive because you have a life purpose. One target group is over 40-year-olds for re and upskilling. With the AI automation, there is the AI automation job loss problem, and many people need to re and upskill in that situation. So there we offer e-learning to do that. So we go from meditation and fieldware application to psychology and healthcare. Okay. Any other questions so far? So then I would just continue. So there's a number of psychological applications. For example, we work with Dr. Ralph Lamson and his virtual therapy, which addresses phobias, anxiety, depression, selective prevention, so different tests, hypnotization for surgery, subject dependence, substance dependence, and related disorders, building healthier models of success and process models, and process conscious experience, and visually explaining psychological processes. So he wrote a book on it, has a patent on it. And we also combined this with the Psychology of Behavior at Book, a very good Behavior at Work, is a very good book, and Radical Collaboration book, also called FIRO, Fundamental Interpersonal Relations Orientation. Generally, we address feeling better, more optimistic, and developing confidence and better mood. The key psychological applications of this is to leverage personality traits. So it's being abused by, or has been abused by Cambridge Analytica for political manipulation, but it can also be used for good. These different psychological triggers. How it's been done has been described here. So we use 50+ psychological techniques, not to make people addicted, but to help them learn faster. So we're using psychological insights for good, and not to make learners addicted, but to find out what are their most efficient learning techniques and how they can get efficiently into flow state. For example, to turn disempowering into empowering beliefs. So a disempowering belief is, for example, I don't have a head for business, and we turn it into the empowering belief that anybody can become skilled at doing business, including me. And we use this with classical teaching, the tapping or emotional freedom techniques, meditation with a nice third-party voice, or immersive 3D VR experiences. There's a learning psychology around minimizing distractions, tiredness, breaks, or other topics. So we optimize the learning technology, minimizing tiredness by giving people breaks, and other topics like minimizing distractions, optimizing the overall performance by tracking results, optimizing the flow state in which people are put. Learners get rewarded or punished with points, with gamification, and we're optimizing for group dynamics and wanting people to impress each other with the learning results. Key psychological e-learning elements are also that psychology and education technology can deliver similarly impressive results as in social media games. So Unexpected rewards help in that social approval, rituals, optimizing for the brain's reward center. Dependency creating mechanisms can help towards self-improvement and learning. So instead of making people dependent on social media, we help people to develop a kind of dependency on liking to learn and on getting better and better in learning and getting better and better in flow state, and then continuously improve in learning. So the techniques to do that are continuous psychological and personality assessment, using positive AI avatar-based coaching, latest insights from social media, gaming and e-learning research, for example, to leverage the fear of missing out, but for positive purposes, for finding resonance, insights from behavioral psychology, for example, why people behave badly and how to deal with it, what to do about it. Latest insights from nudging towards good behavior and learning the difficult core topics early, repeating key content frequently. Balancing the various human needs, changing topics into type of works, valuable games, gamification between social interactions. We're leveraging psychological insights from group therapy and soap opera. Like from group therapy, we know how to structure the day for participants to not let them get distracted or bored, to optimize their concentration on a single goal, to optimize for group and peer pressure to not underperform but rather excel, and use soap operas, those insights for latest insights about storytelling, so how it goes on to identify with one or more of the actors having similar personal problems, how to get people into resonance with that, how to get people to want to learn and approach people, how to solve it better, about politically incorrect things, powerful and naughty things, sympathetic or adorable, sexy people, and how they make us want to learn more. We leverage more insights, unexpected gifts or benefits inside the game, and fostering curiousness can help also to learn more efficiently. Fear of missing out can help, for example, with alerts and sounds. Reminders with sound effects or emails can help to learn more. Social interactions, recognition, likes, social proof, social gratification, and addiction creation towards positive outcomes can help to make people learn and like learning faster. The elicitation of subjectively best content, learner specific, can help. Yeah, okay. So I see I should be coming to an end. Thank you very much. So we can make people also to achieve and have smaller and bigger success, and to bring them into charging situations regarding emotions, situations, circumstances, and stories, multimedia effect. So, and you can find more about us. So we are a team of core team of 6 people, and you can find more about us under compris.com. Let's find this. So you find us under compris.com on the German. Yeah, thank you very much and have a great day. And thank you for listening. So thank you very much. So who's the next presenter? Do you have questions so far? Or I can't hear you, but I'm stopping for now. Okay, thank you very much. So the next person can continue. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for your kind comments. Thank you very much, and thanks for listening.